Good morning. Welcome to the Coach's IDP Studz and Rankings podcast for Week 7. Today we're going to take a look at the rankings as a few guys have entered the top 10 that have not been there yet, and also talk about the guys that are leading the rankings still at the very top. Also going to talk a little bit about the waiver wire pickups for Week 7. With the buys and injuries, injuries are becoming a huge issue early in the season, with guys going down and not knowing when they're going to return or come back into play. And then we might answer a couple questions here at the end. So let's go ahead and start. Go ahead and start with some of the rankings that we have. We went back through and redid them for Week 7. There's a little bit of a change. I guess I wouldn't say a little bit of a change in the top 10, but we do have some new guys that are entering that role in those positions. So let's take a look at them, starting with the defensive lineman. Remember this is IDP, so we're talking defensive players here. And one thing I want to point out before I get started here is, we've got a lot of quarterbacks that are playing injured. We've got a lot of backup quarterbacks that are in. So that tends to pick up the running game for the offense. So there are a lot of tackles out there to be had by the defensive linemen and the linebackers, and even the defensive backs that play close to the line of scrimmage. But some of the tackle averages per week may go up while quarterbacks are fighting through injuries. For an example, tonight with Trevor Lawrence, whether he plays or not, if he does play on a sprained knee, he's going to rely heavily on his running game behind him. And so that's going to have, the opponent, the defense, kind of walking an extra guy up in the box and making tackles. So let's go down through the top 10 here for the defensive line. No surprise, Micah Parsons, defensive end, still my number one guy. Nick Bosa for San Francisco 49ers, TJ Watt, Pittsburgh Steelers, Max Crosby and Myles Garrett. They're 4 and 5. Kind of similar players there. Looked at kind of flip-flopping. Myles Garrett just had a couple good weeks here, but went ahead and stayed with Max Crosby at 4 and Myles Garrett at 5. New guy in the top 10, I believe, is Brian Burns, defensive end, outside linebacker for Carolina. And if you're not in deep leagues, you may not have known about him, early in the season. Has really had a nice year so far. Had a little bit of an ankle injury, but he's good to go. And, they're on a bye this week. So that'll help him going into next week, Week 8. And hopefully he'll be 100%. Aiden Hutchinson, rookie. Or I'm sorry, not a rookie. Last year's rookie. Is a dominant force, dominant player at number 7 for the Detroit Lions. Hassan Reddick is having a quiet but really good, fantastic year for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're starting to move him around quite a bit now that they've, getting healthy in their defensive tackles and defensive ends. So they're kind of standing him up and moving him around, and he's making some outstanding plays. At number 9, Kayvon Thibodeau. He continues to improve each and every week. Watching the Giants. I'm not a Giants fan, but I do like Kayvon's his game, and he's getting after the quarterback a little bit more, just kind of playing more on instinct than he is on, kind of like a robot type defensive end. And then finishing out the top 10 for the defensive lineman, Quentin Williams. And I think he moved up a little bit this week. He's just a run stopper. I mean, he is a guy for the Jets that, will not allow a double team to stop him from getting to the ball carrier. And he takes up 2 blocks every single time the ball is snapped. So I just think his productivity and how well he's played this year, has moved him up into the top 10. Some other guys just outside the top 10, and I've talked quite a bit this year about Will Anderson Jr., Jalen Phillips, Joey Bosa, Chris Jones, ever since he came back from his holdout, has been pretty dominant, and Danielle Hunter, defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings. So they're on the outskirts of the top 10 this week, and there's a lot of guys. So again, this is my opinion only. Where these guys stand. There could be arguments made for other players or flip-flopping guys around a little bit, but as it stands right now, this is the coach's IDP ranking for the defensive lineman for week 7. So let's get into linebackers. A little bit of a change at the top. The top four, top 5 are pretty much the same, but we've got a couple guys kind of squeaking into the lower half of the top 10. So Roquan Smith, number 1. I don't think there's much of an argument there. Foysaid Oklahoma from Jacksonville is awfully good too, but I think Roquan Smith brings more to the table than Oklahoma does, just in pass coverage and things that he can do, defensively from the middle linebacker spot. Nick Bolton, who had a really nice game this past weekend, he came back from an injury. I kept him up there in the top 5 or so, the last few weeks, and I don't think he proved me wrong, going into this week. So, he really good coverage guy. He plays a run first, obviously, but had a nice interception, I believe, this past weekend, and is an all-around player. And he'll be tested this week. San Francisco, I know McCaffrey's probably out for a few weeks, but San Francisco does a lot of things with their crossing routes and tight ends, and their backup running backs are legit. So it'd be tested this week, but look for him to have a big ball game, huge tackle total also. Devin White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, comes in number 4. Just steady. He just is an individual that, is calling the plays now on the defensive side. I think he took that over from Levante David, and he's just the leader on that defense. And if you've got dudes that are on your front line and your second line, and then in your secondary like Tampa Bay has, I believe you're always going to be in the ball game. And throughout the rankings, you'll see Tampa Bay guys pop up. So for the Colts, Zaire Franklin, and for the 49ers, Fred Warner. Could have went either way on those two. Stats pretty much similar. But what they do for their individual teams, Zaire, he's over 100 tackles already, going into, week 7. And that's a lot of being around the ball carrier. Fred Warner, leader on the San Francisco 49ers linebacker core. They kind of got shell-shocked a little bit this past week. Normally, San Francisco's offense puts more points on the board, so they don't have to have such a quite a close scoring game but I thought Fred Warner still showed up pretty well, and he's at number 6 for me. Sneaking up in top 10, Logan Wilson has just been impressive for Cincinnati Bengals. He's, just quietly, if you're not in deeper leagues, you may not really know him, or if you're not a Bengals fan or live in Ohio, but, he has really become a mainstay for the Bengals, and really is a nice player. Stats are very good. He just really solidifies that position very well for the Bengals. So he's on a bye this week, get fully healthy, hopefully. And, at this time of year, the bye is probably really something that the guys are looking forward to, just to kind of get their, um, dings and bruises and stuff cleared up to get into the second part of the season. So, but Logan Wilson comes in at number 7 for me. Quay Walker, Green Bay Packers. I think I started him out really towards the 20s in my rankings, and has every week solidified, moving up in the rankings, and he's passed a lot of really good linebackers. While he's done that, but for Green Bay, Quay Walker has become a dude, and he's one of those guys that last year he had some problems staying on the field, had some penalty problems, but this year I think he's figured it out. He's doing things that um, he needs to do to be that starting kind of all pro linebacker. So Quay Walker comes in at number 8. Drew Greenlaw, dealing with a little bit of an injury. He's got dinged up a little bit, but he's a steady linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, always around the ball. He's going to be that next Fred Warner, when time comes, because he's just got the leadership qualities. You could see that on film watching him play. He's getting everybody lined up correctly and doing things the way that I'm sure San Francisco would like him to do. Coming in at number 10, Tremaine Edmonds, and now he's moved up quite a bit. Since he's been over in Chicago playing for the Bears now this year, has made a drastic improvement for their defense. The games that they've been in, he's had huge numbers defensively, tackle-wise, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, those type of things. And those are numbers that equate to moving up in the rankings quite a bit. So, again, he kind of like Quay Walker has passed quite a few linebackers in the rankings, and I think he's a legit number 1 linebacker for the Chicago Bears. So that's my top 10. A couple guys that are on the outside that I really like, kind of flirted with a little bit, was Pete Werner for New Orleans. Quincy Williams is he's a player. He's a player for the New York Jets. He's somebody also that really needs to be looked at, for the top 10 area. He's on a bye this week, so we kind of left him at number 12, but he's somebody that could definitely break into that top 10 here the next week or so. CJ Mosley, just, what can I say about him? He's always around the ball, always making the right play, does a lot of things that help the Jets defense be as successful as they are. So that's a couple guys that are on the outside, kind of flirting with moving into that top 10. So keep your eye on them. And, again, if any of these guys are on your waiver wires, man, grab them. Grab them, stash them, put them on there, especially in keeper leagues. These are individuals that can win you leagues, can win you the week, have a huge impact for your defensive team. Your IDP leagues or your leagues that have 11 offensive guys and 11 defensive guys, and they play that way. And to have some of these linebackers in your lineup, that point total just skyrockets with these guys on the field. So keep your eye on them. Let's move to defensive backs. So Derwin James, again, he's still my number one. He'll be tested this week with Kansas City. He's a playmaker. He's around the ball. He's spent a lot of time this year, a little closer to the line of scrimmage, I believe, to help out that run support. As I think that the Chargers are playing a little bit more man coverage on the outside, trying to go one-on-one and let Derwin James kind of do his thing, picking up crossing routes or, helping with the running game. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Antonio Winfield Jr., 2 and 3. Really like both of those guys. They're kind of a clone of one another. They've been in the top 5 pretty much all year. They're just steady players. They're players that, if you don't have them in your backfield, you're awfully worried about the passing game if you're a defensive coordinator. So having those two guys on their respective teams, is huge. So for that reason, they're that high in our rankings. Jaquan Brisker moved up a little bit. He's at 4 now. Watching him play for the Chicago Bears, he's around the ball all the time. I mean, I look up and I see him. He's there. So if the ball's thrown deep, he's over the top. If the ball's being ran, he's somewhere down in that front 7. So he's just a player, a highly ranked guy. And if he's not in Chicago's secondary, they're going to have more issues than what they already have. So he comes in at number 4 for me. Jalen Petrie dropped a little bit. He's on a bye this week for Houston, but still a really good player. I just think he is kind of being utilized a little bit different than he had been in the last year or so, with the new coach coming over, defensive mind guy who wants to do some extra things with his secondary and his linebacking crews. So he's kind of been utilized a little bit different as a safety. I think he's taken just a tad of a hit there, but still a really good ball player, and I still have him in my top 5. A couple guys have moved up in top 10. Kyle Hamilton, safety for Baltimore Ravens, just gets better every week. Last year, he's just kind of worked his way in to the starting lineup and was making some plays there at the end of the year. And this year, he just took off running from the beginning. So we had him ranked probably a little bit too low earlier in the year, and he kind of moved himself up, and he's got himself up in the top 10. He comes in at number 6. Jeremy Chin from my area. I saw him play in high school, and then he went on to college and played. And I've kind of trying to take the the heart out of it, because I've really enjoyed watching him play, and I'm a big fan of his, and kind of used my head a little bit here. But as I still see him play, and he just gets so much better each week. And for Carolina, they need him, and he's a very important piece to their defense. So Jeremy Chin comes in at number 7. A guy I really like, kind of high on. 2 weeks ago, I talked a lot about him. He was on the waiver wire to pick him up, and that's Devon Witherspoon cornerback for Seattle. He was on a bye last week, but I said if he was still on your waiver wire, he would be a great stash. So hopefully you picked him up, and hopefully you can get him in your lineup this week. And he's going to quickly keep climbing this board, and I wouldn't be surprised if going into next year he's in the top 5, maybe top 3 going forward. Really like him, and he comes in at number 8. Tulana Hafenga, safety for San Francisco. Very good. I saw him play in person last year. Just fast to the football. Doesn't miss tackles. He's around the ball all the time, and he gets the secondary lined up. Gets them lined up well enough to where they do a lot of coverage with cover 3, and then walk him down and play a lot of defense at the line of scrimmage with him. So, you'll see a defensive back come blitzing through, and that's usually him, or he's coming off the edge. So, really like the enthusiasm, the work ethic that he provides for the secondary for San Francisco 49ers. He comes in at number 9. Kyle Duggar, kind of dinged up a little bit, but, he's a lockdown corner for the New England Patriots. He's a guy that, really high on when he came out of college, and he's not disappointed. He's worked really extremely hard to hold up the reputation that he had coming out of college, and has done a really nice job defensively for New England. So he's gonna round out our top 10. A couple other guys on the cusp. Buda Baker. I saw some stuff earlier this week that he may try to play this weekend. That'd be great for Arizona. He's been a strong safety and played very well for numerous years for Arizona, and it'd be a shame for him to have to sit out any longer. With the talent that he brings for Arizona. Sauce Gardner, New York Jets. Jalen Thompson, Arizona also. And Cameron Curl from Washington. So those guys are kind of on the outside. Xavier McKinney and Brian Branch. I've talked a lot about Brian Branch. So those are the next tier guys that could work their way into the top 10. So a lot of good defensive backs in the league. I mean, you just see a lot of good plays and a lot of good hits from the secondary guys. So like to see them kind of lift their head a little bit more on some of the contact plays, but I understand the rules in there for a reason. With that being said, I want to go back and talk about this thing where I my personal opinion is we're taking care of the quarterbacks too much. Some of these hits where a guy is tackling and falling on top of after the quarterback's thrown the football, and we just end up on top, and they throw a flag on that. Well, that's a football tackle. Wasn't using the helmet, wasn't sparing, wasn't anything malicious. It was just a football tackle. But you see a flag thrown every time, almost, when a quarterback gets touched. And I wish they'd clean that up a little bit, be a little bit more precise on what is a flagrant foul, what is a late hit, what is not, and let the guys on the defensive side play a little bit, and not be so tentative when they come around the corner or get to the quarterback, because I think they're pulling up too soon, and the throws are getting passed, and as they get passed, then we're falling into the quarterback, and now they're throwing flags. So just my opinion, but I think they're protecting the quarterbacks just a little bit too much. Quickly, With the injuries this week, here's some guys that I think if they're out there on the waiver wire because of buys last week or a buy going into this week and they were dropped. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, San Francisco. Brian Burns, defensive end for Carolina. Jalen Phillips, defensive end for Miami. And Ernest Jones, linebacker for Los Angeles Rams. If those guys are on your waiver wire, um, they're guys you want to add to your team right away. Handful of new guys that I'd like to also throw out there for waiver wire purposes because of injuries to their own team or players on their own team. Devin Lloyd, linebacker, Jacksonville. Dorian Williams, linebacker, Buffalo, had a fantastic game Sunday, and I think he's going to solidify that open spot that Milano, when he had a season-ending injury, he took that over. A guy I want you to watch, and we talked about it a little bit earlier with, the Jets' defensive front just being, dominant. Bryce Huff, defensive end, New York Jets. If you're in deep IDP leagues, he's a guy you want to look for on the waiver wire. He's probably on there, so grab him, stash him, and then hopefully get to play him really soon, as he may buy into a starting role here in the next week or so. And then Blake Cashman had a really nice weekend last week. He's going to be on a bye this week, but he's with Houston and a linebacker, and just played very, very well. I think he's one that understands the game a little bit slower than some of the guys, but he reacts well, and he does a really nice job of filling gaps and making the play when he sees it. So those are 4 other guys that I definitely would look at and consider picking up in deeper leagues, and I'm gonna add them to my team if they're out there also. So, hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. Thank you again to Fantasy Holics for allowing me to do this. I enjoy it. I hope it sounds better, that we're getting better. We're still playing with some things to try to make this podcast as good as possible. So, in the future, we're going to try to bring on some guests and maybe talk a little bit with them, some discussion, maybe, walk the podcast out a little bit longer each time to give you all the content we can possibly give you each week on the IDP. So again, thank you. Thank you for listening. Any questions, please shoot them out to at IDP _ Studz, STUDZ. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great fantasy weekend.